At my mother's funeral, my brother thanked me for raising his son. He didn't say it quietly. He didn't pull me aside. He said it into a microphone. In front of family, friends, and my 12-year-old son. For 12 years, I believed I was a single mother. I believed every sleepless night, every sacrifice, every tear was mine alone. Then my brother looked at me, smiled, and said the words that shattered everything. "Thank you for raising my son." The room went silent. My son turned and looked at me. And in that moment, standing beside my mother's coffin, I realized the truth hadn't just been hidden from me. My entire life had been built on it. I never imagined my mother's funeral would be the day my entire life cracked open. I stood in the front row of the chapel, hands folded so tightly my fingers ached, staring at the closed casket. The wood was polished to a soft shine, almost warm-looking, like it was pretending this moment wasn't real. My mother hated closed caskets. She used to say, if people came to say goodbye, they deserved to see who they are saying goodbye to. Yet here we were. The room smelled like lilies and something metallic underneath. Grief has a smell, but no one ever talks about it. The pews behind me were full. Neighbors, church friends, cousins I hadn't seen in years. People who thought they knew our family. They didn't. My brother Mark sat to my right, his knee bouncing uncontrollably. He kept clearing his throat, like he was nervous about something more than public speaking. I assumed it was guilt. Our mother had died suddenly, and none of us had been there when it happened. Or so I thought. Between us sat my son, Ethan. 12 years old. Too young to understand why funerals feel heavier than other sad days. His black suit didn't quite fit right, sleeves too long, collar stiff against his neck. He leaned slightly toward me, the way he always had when he was unsure. I rested my hand on his shoulder. I raised him alone. That's what everyone believed. And until that morning, that's what I believed too. The service moved slowly. Hymns my mother loved. Scripture readings that promised reunions in heaven. I barely heard any of it. My mind kept drifting to memories of her voice, her laugh, the way she used to hum while washing dishes. I kept thinking, she knew things. My mother always knew things. Then the pastor nodded toward Mark. Her son would like to say a few words. Mark stood up. I expected something simple. Thank you for coming. Mom loved us. She's at peace now. The usual funeral script people follow when they're too broken to improvise. Instead, Mark stepped forward, cleared his throat again, and looked straight at me. Not at the casket. Not at the crowd. At me. I want to thank everyone for being here today, he began. His voice trembled, but not with grief, with nerves. My mother meant everything to us. She held this family together, in ways we didn't even realize, until she was gone. A murmur of agreement moved through the room. Then he smiled. A small, tight smile. And I especially want to thank my sister, for something very personal. My stomach tightened. I felt Ethan shift beside me. Mark swallowed. I want to thank her for raising my son. The words didn't land right away. It took a moment, like when you hear something in another language, and your brain tries to translate it. Raising my son. I blinked. Once. Twice. A few people chuckled softly, assuming it was a figure of speech. Someone whispered, "That's sweet." But Mark wasn't joking. He turned slightly and looked down at Ethan. My son, he repeated, more clearly this time. I know this isn't how you should find out. And I know it's late. But you deserve the truth. The room went silent. So silent I could hear the old clock on the wall ticking. Ethan looked up at him, confused. Then at me. I stood up so fast my chair scraped loudly against the stone floor. "What did you just say?" I whispered. Mark didn't answer me. He looked at the pastor, then back at the crowd. "Our mother made me promise not to say anything until after she was gone," he continued, his voice steadier now. "She said secrets like this, they destroy families if they come out the wrong way." My heart started pounding in my ears. "Mark," I said, louder now. "Stop." He finally met my eyes. "I can't," he said quietly. "Not anymore." I felt like the room was tilting. 12 years. 12 birthdays. 12 years of bedtime stories, doctor visits, school meetings, scraped knees, nightmares, laughter, tears. "You're wrong," I said. "You're sick. This isn't the time." He reached into the inside pocket of his suit jacket. People leaned forward. "I wish I were," he said. "But I'm not." He pulled out a folded envelope. Yellowed. Old. "This was written the day Ethan was born," he said. "By our mother." My knees went weak. Ethan grabbed my hand. "Mom?" That word, Mom, nearly broke me in half. "I am your mom," I said automatically, gripping his hand tighter. "I've always been your mom." Mark nodded slowly. "And you always will be," he said. "But biologically, I'm his father." A gasp rippled through the room. Someone dropped a program. I turned to the pastor. "Please," I said. "Make him stop." The pastor looked frozen. He had no script for this. Mark unfolded the letter. "Our mother raised Ethan's birth certificate as if it were yours," he read. "She said it was the only way to protect him. To protect you." My vision blurred. "Protect me from what?" "Mom told me everything," Mark continued. "About the night you came home crying. About the man who left. About how you begged her not to tell anyone." "That's not true," I said, shaking my head. "That's not true." Mark's voice cracked. "She said you never knew." The words hit harder than anything else. "You never knew." I felt the blood drain from my face. Ethan looked between us, his eyes wide, searching for something solid to hold on to. "Mom," he whispered again. "What's happening?" I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Because suddenly, buried memories were clawing their way back. Hospital lights, my mother holding my hand too tightly, signing papers while I was half conscious, whispering, "I've got you. I'll fix this." I had trusted her. Mark lowered the letter. "She made me promise I'd never tell you unless you were strong enough to hear it," he said. "She said the truth would come out when it was time." He looked at the casket. "I guess this is the time." The room exploded into whispers. I couldn't breathe. Ethan's hand slipped from mine. And in that moment, standing beside my mother's coffin, I realized something terrifying. My mother hadn't just taken a secret to the grave. She had built my entire life on it. I don't remember sitting down. One moment I was standing beside my mother's coffin, the next I was staring at my hands in my lap, knuckles white, Ethan no longer touching me. The room felt farther away now, like I was watching everything through thick glass. People were whispering. Not quietly. Not respectfully. The pastor finally spoke. "Why don't we take a short recess?" he said, his voice strained. "Give the family a moment." No one moved. This was better than the service. Better than the hymns. Better than closure. This was real. Mark folded the letter and slid it back into his pocket, Like what he'd just done wasn't irreversible. I stood up again, slower this time. My legs shook, but anger has a way of holding you upright. You waited until now. I said. You waited until she was dead. Mark looked exhausted. Not guilty. Not ashamed. Just tired. She made me swear, he said. I tried to tell her it wasn't right. I tried. I laughed once, a short, broken sound that didn't belong to me. Tried? I repeated. You stood there and thanked me. You thanked me for raising your son. Like I was a nanny. Like I wasn't his mother. You are his mother, he said again. Stop saying that. My voice cracked. Stop trying to soften this. Ethan was still seated, staring at the floor. His shoulders were stiff, his back straight, the way it got when he was trying not to cry. That scared me more than anything else. I knelt in front of him. Ethan, I said softly. Look at me. He didn't. I need you to come with me, I said. We're going to talk somewhere quiet. He finally looked up. His eyes were different. Older. Guarded. Is he telling the truth? He asked. The room went dead silent again. Every instinct in my body screamed to lie. To say no. To say this was some kind of mistake. To protect him the way I always had. But my mother's voice echoed in my head. Secrets like this destroy families, if they come out the wrong way. I swallowed. I didn't know, I said carefully. I swear to you, I didn't know. That wasn't the answer he was asking for. Is he my dad? He pressed. Mark took a step forward. Ethan. Don't, I snapped. Not another word. I looked back at my son. Yes, I whispered. That's what he's saying. Ethan nodded slowly. Once. Then he stood up. I want to go home, he said. Not our home. Just home. The car ride was silent. No music. No questions. Ethan sat in the back seat, staring out the window, his reflection faint in the glass. I watched him through the mirror, trying to memorize him, like he was already slipping away from me. When we pulled into the driveway, Mark followed behind us. I didn't invite you, I said, getting out of the car. I'm not leaving, he replied. I wanted to scream. Instead, I unlocked the door and walked inside. Ethan went straight to his room. The door closed softly. Too softly. I turned on Mark. Why? I demanded. Why now? He rubbed his face with both hands. Because she's gone. Because she can't control the story anymore. That word made my stomach drop. Control. I repeated. Mark looked at me for a long moment, then sighed. You really don't remember, do you? Remember what? The night Ethan was born. I crossed my arms. I remember giving birth. I remember pain. I remember being alone. You weren't alone, he said quietly. The air shifted. You were there, I said flatly. He nodded. I drove you to the hospital. That doesn't mean anything. You were bleeding, he said. A lot. You passed out before you signed anything. My chest tightened. I signed his birth certificate, I said. No, Mark replied. Mom did. The room tilted again. That's impossible. She had power of attorney, he said. Temporary. For medical decisions. You were barely conscious. I shook my head. She wouldn't. She did. Silence stretched between us. She told me you were in no condition to raise a baby, Mark continued. That the father had disappeared. That you were ashamed. She said the only way to protect you was to make it look like Ethan was yours, fully, legally, completely. I laughed again, this time harder. So you just agreed. I was 22, he snapped. I was scared. She said it was the only way to keep you from spiraling. By lying to me for 12 years. By giving you a son, he shot back. I slapped him. The sound echoed through the house. He didn't react. I gave myself a son, I said, my voice shaking. I raised him. I stayed up all night when he was sick. I missed promotions. I cancelled dates. I built my entire life around him. I know, Mark said. That's why this hurts. Hurt? I laughed bitterly. You don't get to say that. A door creaked upstairs. Ethan stood at the top of the stairs. Neither of us had heard him. I want to hear it, he said. My heart broke all over again. Mark opened his mouth. No, I said. You've said enough. Ethan's voice hardened. I want to hear it from him. I looked at my son, the boy I thought I knew completely, and realized something terrible. He wasn't asking permission. He was choosing. Mark spoke carefully, like he was walking through a minefield. I never meant to be absent, he said. Your mom, your aunt, she wanted it this way. I turned on him. Don't you dare call me that. Ethan flinched. Why didn't you tell me? He asked Mark. Because every year that passed made it harder, Mark replied. And because he stopped. Because who? Ethan asked. Because Grandma, Mark said. She said if you ever found out too young, you'd hate us both. Ethan went quiet. Then he asked the question I'd been dreading. Did she know? He asked me. I swallowed. No, I said. I swear. If I had known, I would have told you myself. He studied my face. I didn't know what he was looking for, guilt, hesitation, cracks. Finally, he nodded. Okay, he said. Okay. That was it. He turned and went back into his room. The door closed. This time, it wasn't soft. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table with my mother's letter in my hands. Mark had left it behind, intentionally or not. I unfolded it carefully. My mother's handwriting filled the page. If you are reading this, then I am gone, and the truth has finally come out. My hands shook. I did what I thought was best. I did what mothers do. I protected my children. Children. Plural. You were fragile. You were broken. I could not lose you too. Tears blurred the ink. I knew one day this secret would cost me forgiveness. But I hoped it would save you both. Save us. I pressed the letter to my chest. Upstairs, I heard Ethan moving around in his room. Packing. And in that moment, I realized something even worse than the truth itself. This secret wasn't finished destroying us. It was just getting started. I woke up to the sound of drawers opening. Not slamming. Not rushing. Careful. Deliberate. For a second, I lay there pretending it wasn't real, like if I stayed still long enough, the sound would fade and the day before would rewind itself. It didn't. I got out of bed and walked toward Ethan's room. His door was open. Clothes were laid neatly on the bed. His backpack sat upright by the desk, already half full. He wasn't panicking. He wasn't crying. That scared me more than if he had been. What are you doing? I asked softly. He didn't turn around. Packing, he said. For school. I tried. He shook his head once. No. The word hit harder than yelling ever could. Ethan, I said, stepping closer. Talk to me. He zipped the backpack and finally looked at me. I need space. You're 12, I said automatically. You don't need space. You need. I need to understand who I am, he interrupted. His voice didn't shake. And I can't do that here. Not right now. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Where are you going? I asked. He hesitated. Then, Uncle Mark said I could stay with him. Just for a little while. The floor dropped out from under me. He had no right, I said sharply. He didn't ask me. He didn't have to, Ethan replied. I flinched. You're my son, I said, the words raw. You live here. I live here because everyone lied, he said quietly. I just need time. Please. Please. That word was worse than defiance. It meant he was already gone. I sat on the edge of the bed. You think going there will make this easier? I asked. You think answers will fix how this feels? I don't know, he said honestly. But staying here feels like pretending. I nodded slowly. I wanted to beg. I wanted to scream. I wanted to drag time backward by force. Instead, I stood up and grabbed his jacket. If you're leaving, I said, my voice tight, I'm driving you. He didn't argue. Mark's house smelled different. Coffee. Aftershave. Something unfamiliar. Ethan walked in like a guest, polite, distant, cautious. Mark hovered, unsure of where to stand, what to say. I'll get the guest room ready, he muttered. No, Ethan said. I want to stay in the spare room downstairs. Mark nodded quickly. Of course. Whatever you want. I watched it happen, the way Mark adjusted himself around Ethan, like he was trying to step into a role that had never been his. And suddenly, I understood something ugly. This wasn't just about truth. This was about replacement. I knelt in front of Ethan again. This doesn't change anything, I said, forcing steadiness. I'm here. Always. He looked at me for a long moment. I know, he said. Then he hugged me. Not the way he used to. Looser. Shorter. Like someone saying goodbye without admitting it. The first night alone was unbearable. Every sound in the house felt wrong, too loud, too empty. I sat at the kitchen table with my mother's letter spread out in front of me again, reading the same lines over and over, hoping they would rearrange themselves into something kinder. They didn't. My phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. I heard what happened. I'm so sorry. I stared at the screen. Then another message. You don't know me. But I think we need to talk. My chest tightened. Who is this? I typed. The reply came almost immediately. My name is Laura. I was there the night Ethan was born. The room started spinning. You need to be more specific, I wrote. There was a pause this time. Then, I'm Mark's ex-wife. I dropped the phone. Laura sat across from me the next afternoon in a quiet cafe on the other side of town. She was older than I expected. Softer. The kind of woman who looked like she'd learned how to survive disappointment. I didn't want to reach out, she said, fingers wrapped tightly around her cup. But when I heard, I couldn't stay silent anymore. He told you? I asked. She shook her head. No. Your mother did. My breath caught. She came to me after the birth, Laura continued. She was frantic. Said she needed someone outside the family. Someone who wouldn't tell you. Why you? I asked. Because I was already leaving Mark, she said quietly. Because I had nothing to lose. My hands trembled. What do you know? I asked. Laura took a deep breath. Your mother didn't just hide the truth, she said. She manipulated it. I leaned forward. How? She told Mark you didn't want the baby, Laura said. She told him you planned to give Ethan up if she didn't intervene. That's a lie, I said instantly. I know, Laura replied. That's why I'm here. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small envelope. Photographs slid onto the table. Hospital room. My hospital room. Me, pale, exhausted, holding Ethan against my chest. Tears streamed down my face. She took these, Laura said. She showed them to me while telling a completely different story to Mark. I clenched my jaw. She said she was protecting you, Laura continued. But she was also controlling the narrative. Making herself indispensable. The pieces started clicking into place. The way my mother always hovered. The way she dismissed my doubts. The way she inserted herself into every decision. She didn't trust me, I whispered. She didn't trust anyone, Laura said gently. Silence fell between us. Then she added the sentence that changed everything. There's something else. I looked up. She told me, Laura said, that Mark wasn't the only one who knew. My blood ran cold. Who else? I asked. Laura hesitated. Ethan's school counselor, she said. And one teacher. The cafe seemed to close in around me. She said it was for emergencies, Laura added. In case the truth ever came out. I stood up so fast my chair scraped loudly. Thank you, I said, my voice distant. For telling me. I left before she could say anything else. That night, I drove to Mark's house. I didn't knock. I walked straight in. Ethan was on the couch, laughing at something on TV. The sound shattered me. Mark stood up. We need to talk, I said. Ethan looked between us. This concerns him too, I added. Mark swallowed. I turned to my son. Did anyone at school ever say something strange? I asked carefully. Ethan frowned. Mrs. Collins, he said after a moment. She used to look at me weird. Like, sad. My heart broke open. I looked at Mark. You knew, I said. I didn't, he insisted. I swear. But doubt had already taken root. I realized then that the truth wasn't just stolen from me. It had been distributed. Carefully. Strategically. And suddenly, the betrayal felt bigger than my brother. Bigger than my mother. It felt systemic. Planned. I looked at Ethan. There's more you deserve to know, I said. Mark's eyes widened. Not yet, he said. Please. I met his gaze. You don't get to decide that anymore. Ethan sat up straighter. What else? He asked. I took a deep breath. And in that moment, I knew. What I was about to say would decide who he trusted next. The words hung in the air between us. There's more you deserve to know. Ethan didn't blink. Mark did. No, Mark said immediately. This is already too much. He's a kid. I turned to him slowly. He stopped being just a kid the moment you thanked me for raising him in front of a room full of strangers. Ethan's jaw tightened. What else? He asked again. I took a breath so deep it hurt. This isn't about choosing sides, I said to him. It's about understanding what was taken from you. Mark stepped closer. Please. Not like this. Like what? I shot back. Honest. Ethan stood up. Say it, he said. So I did. Your grandmother told other people, I said carefully. About who your father really was. She told them without telling you. Without telling me. His face drained of color. Who? He asked. A school counselor, I continued. And a teacher. The room went silent. Ethan laughed once, sharp and humorless. So, he said slowly, people at my school knew something about me that I didn't? Mark shook his head. I didn't know about that part. That's not the point, Ethan snapped. I had never heard that tone from him. Not once in 12 years. How long? Ethan asked. I swallowed. Years. He sat back down, staring at his hands. They watched me, he murmured. Didn't they? I felt sick. They watched me grow up, thinking they knew who I was. No one answered. Ethan looked up at Mark. Did you ever think about telling me? He asked. Mark hesitated. Just for a second. But Ethan saw it. Yes or no, he said. Yes, Mark admitted. Every year. And you didn't, Ethan said flatly. Because your grandmother. Stop blaming her. Ethan shouted. The sound hit us both like a slap. She's dead, he continued, his voice shaking. She can't explain herself. She can't fix it. So stop hiding behind her. I felt tears burning behind my eyes. Ethan stood up again, pacing now. So let me get this straight, he said. You're my biological father. She, he gestured toward me, is the person who raised me. And Grandma decided who got to know what, whenever she felt like it. Yes, I said quietly. He stopped pacing. Why? He asked. The simplest question. The hardest one. Because she was afraid, I said. Afraid of losing control. Afraid of losing you. Afraid of losing me. Ethan looked at me then. Really looked. Did you ever want me? He asked. The world stopped. Mark inhaled sharply. I felt my heart split clean open. More than anything, I said immediately. From the second I knew you existed. From the second I held you. He nodded slowly. Then came the question I will carry with me for the rest of my life. If you'd known the truth, he asked, would you have given me back? I stood there, frozen. There was no right answer. Yes would destroy him. No would feel like a lie. I would have told you, I said instead. When you were ready. And I would have fought for you every single day. He studied my face. Searching. Finally, he nodded. I believe you, he said. Relief nearly knocked me over. Then he turned to Mark. And you? He asked. Mark's voice broke. I don't know. I was young. I was scared. That's not an answer, Ethan replied. Mark opened his mouth. Closed it again. And in that silence, Ethan found his answer. He didn't cry that night. That came later. What he did instead was worse. He withdrew. He answered questions politely. He followed rules. He smiled when expected. But the warmth was gone. He stopped texting me. Stopped calling. Days passed. Then a week. I tried to give him space. That's what everyone says you're supposed to do. One afternoon, my phone rang. It was Ethan's school. My stomach dropped. "Mrs., the principal began. There was an incident today." I drove there in a blur. Ethan sat in the office, arms crossed, face blank. "What happened?" I asked. He didn't answer. The principal cleared her throat. Another student made a comment about real parents. Ethan reacted, strongly. I looked at him. He finally spoke. "He said I wasn't really hers," Ethan said quietly. I felt something inside me snap. I turned back to the principal. "Who said it?" I asked. She hesitated. "That's not important." "It is to me," I said. She gave a name. A boy from his class. A boy whose mother volunteered at the school. A woman who talked. I knelt in front of Ethan. "You did nothing wrong," I said. He nodded, but his eyes were distant. "They all know now," he said. "Don't they?" I had no answer. That night, he called me. "I want to come home," he said. My heart leapt. "But," he added, "I don't want him there." I understood. "I'll make it happen," I said. Mark didn't argue. He watched silently as Ethan packed his things. Before Ethan left, Mark spoke. "I love you," he said. Ethan paused at the door. "I know," he replied. "But love doesn't undo damage." Then he walked out. At home, Ethan went straight to his room. I stood in the hallway, unsure. After a while, he opened the door. "Stay," he said. So I did. We sat on the floor, backs against the bed, not touching. Finally, he spoke. "I don't hate him," he said. "But I don't trust him." "I know." "And Grandma?" he asked. I closed my eyes. "She loved you," I said. "In her own way." "That's not enough," he replied. No. It wasn't. Later that night, as I watched him sleep, I realized something terrifying. The truth hadn't freed him. It had fractured his sense of safety. And in part 5, I would have to decide whether protecting him meant cutting someone out forever, or finding a way to live with the damage. I didn't sleep that night. I lay on the couch outside Ethan's room, listening to his breathing through the door, counting each rise and fall of his chest like it was the only thing tethering me to reality. At dawn, I made coffee I didn't drink and toast I didn't eat. Then I opened the last envelope. The one my mother had labeled in shaky handwriting. "For when the truth hurts too much." I hated her for that line. Still, my hands shook as I unfolded the pages. "My dearest girl. If you're reading this, then I failed you in the one way I prayed I never would." I swallowed hard. I convinced myself that love justified control. That protecting you meant deciding for you. I was wrong. Tears slid down my face, silent and hot. I told myself that if you never knew, you would never be hurt. I told myself that if Ethan never knew, he would never feel torn. But secrets do not disappear. They wait. Wait. That word felt heavy. "Mark wanted to tell you sooner." I stopped him. I told him you would fall apart. I told him he would ruin you. I clenched the paper. The truth is, I was afraid. Afraid of losing my place. Afraid of becoming unnecessary. Afraid that once you knew everything, you wouldn't need me anymore. There it was. Not protection. Fear. If Ethan is angry, let him be. If he pulls away, let him. Do not force forgiveness in the name of family. That is another lie I told myself. I closed my eyes. Love him enough to let him choose. even if his choice hurts you. I folded the letter carefully and set it down. When Ethan woke up, I didn't rush him. I didn't ask questions. We ate breakfast in silence. Then he spoke. "I want to talk to him," he said. My heart dropped. "Mark." "When?" I asked carefully. "Today." I nodded. "I'll be there if you want." He shook his head. "No," he said. "I need to do this myself." That was the moment I knew. He was no longer the little boy I had protected from the world. The world had found him anyway. Mark met us at a park halfway between our houses. Neutral ground. Ethan sat on the bench. Mark stood at first, unsure. "Sit," Ethan said. Mark did. "I don't hate you," Ethan began. "But I don't forgive you either." Mark nodded, eyes glassy. "I don't expect you to," he said. "I need boundaries," Ethan continued. "If we're going to have anything, it happens slow. On my terms." "Of course," Mark said quickly. "And no secrets," Ethan added. "Ever. Even if you think they'll hurt." Mark swallowed. "I swear." Ethan stood. "That's all," he said. And just like that, it was over. Not fixed, but defined. Weeks passed. Then months. Ethan came back to himself slowly. Not the same boy. Stronger in some ways. More cautious in others. People stopped whispering eventually. Small towns always find a new story. Mark stayed at a distance, respecting the line Ethan had drawn. Sometimes they talked. Sometimes they didn't. And me. I stayed. I went to school meetings. Helped with homework. Sat through quiet dinners and awkward laughter and moments that felt almost normal. One evening, Ethan found my mother's letter on the counter. He read it. Didn't cry. When he finished, he handed it back. "She was scared," he said. "Yes," I replied. "That doesn't excuse it," he added. "No," I agreed. But then he surprised me. "She loved me," he said. "In her own messed up way." I nodded. "That doesn't mean I have to forgive her," he continued. "You don't," I said. He looked at me then. "You didn't choose any of this," he said. "No," I replied. "But I choose you. Every day." He leaned his head against my shoulder. And for the first time since the funeral, he didn't pull away. A year later, Ethan had to fill out a form for school. Mother's name. Father's name. He paused. Then he wrote. My name. Then Mark's. Side by side. He slid the paper toward me. "This is how I see it," he said. I smiled through tears. Families aren't defined by blood. They're defined by who stays when the truth comes out. My mother thought secrets would save us. They almost destroyed us. But in the wreckage, we built something real. Something honest. Something chosen. And every day since, I wake up knowing this. I may not have given birth to him. But I am, and always will be, his mother.